Okay, I would like to call the July 9th Planning Committee to order. And China, you can start with roll call.
Thank you. Janet Selden.
Here.
Adrian Byram.
Here.
Leanne Hamaji.
Here.
Nan Warren has been excused.
Okay. Any changes to the minutes from June 11th?
No.
Hearing none, we will approve those as submitted. We have 7 people who are going to speak during members forum, and China will have to read you our official blurb.
Thank you. Members are welcome to speak during the designated member forum at Rossmore Walnut Creek, RWC, board and committee meetings, either in person or via Zoom. Speakers are allowed 2 minutes and must clearly state their full name and Rossmore address before beginning. If speaking on behalf of another member, a signed consent form is required. To speak, members must submit a completed member form slip prior to the start of the forum. Member form slips and guidelines are available at the meetings. For convenience, both the guidelines and forms may be also accessed and printed in advance from the RWC Board and Committee Meetings webpage. Please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded. By attending and participating, including during the open forum, attendees agree to and release RWC from all liability for their voice and their likeness being recorded and broadcast for any lawful purposes without compensation. For more details, including instructions on how to participate, submit written comments, and access printable member form guidelines and forms, please visit myrossmore.com, Rossmore Governance, RWC meetings. First speaker we have is Catherine Boggs. Catherine, if you'll stand at the end of the table there and state your name and your full Rossmore address. You have 2 minutes. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I got you. Thank you.
Hi, Catherine Boggs, 1156 Running Springs Road, number 9. And I just wanted to encourage, I probably could have sent an email, the planning committee to look at the separating out of the master plan, the parking for the Dollar Event Center Clubhouse, which ELS has estimated would be approximately 57 spaces. And with the popularity of the Golden Pear and the impending opening of the pickleball courts, I think those parking spaces are going to be needed sooner rather than later and waiting for the full master plan. And again, I don't know where the money had come from, if that could come out of the 1.4 million of the stuff. So that's all I wanted to encourage the planning committee to take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roxanne Stallings.
Good morning, I'm Roxanne Stallings, 3478 Rossmore Parkway, number 3. Rossmore needs to have a transportation service and consider it to be a necessity, not an amenity, like pickleball or the golf course. We need transportation for all of our residents. We need to get out of our cars. You saw in the newspaper that a 103-year-old woman was driving a golf cart, had an accident, killed herself, and injured a passenger in her vehicle. We need to work closely on the Fair and Peers study that's coming up. I asked this planning committee to recommend to the RWC board that we have an advisory committee set up under RWC for transportation on a permanent basis. Alternatively, if you're not willing to do that, or the board is not willing to do that, then I ask that you have set up an ad hoc task force at least for 1 year. Because we need to have an impact on the study that's being done. We need to have a group of stakeholders who have the expertise to advise and influence the way this study is done, the way the questions are asked. With AI technology now, and we even have an author here in Rossmore who writes books on AI technology. We need to have influence on how this study is prepared and performed and the kinds of questions that are asked. As you saw with the gateway renovation.
I'm sorry, but
ELS.
that is time.
Oops, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Manata.
My name is Susan Manata. I live at 2201 Pine Knoll Drive, Unit 2, Entry 3. I'm responding to a letter published in the Residents Forum section of the Rossmore News on July 1st. The letter writer criticized the plans for shuttle bus service on July 4th as inadequate. I think the shuttle bus service on July 4th was excellent. I am unable to drive because of my poor eyesight, but the bus service enabled me to attend the event. I walked from my home on Pine Knoll Drive to Gateway and rode the shuttle bus to the Dollar House. After the band concert, I rode the shuttle bus back to Gateway and walked back home. I hope that the Fair and Pierce Transportation Study will include interviewing the bus drivers and dispatchers. They're the ones who have the most insight into the residents' needs and the vehicles that meet those needs. I doubt if the EV minivans recommended by the letter writer on July 1st have any better ergonomic seating for bus drivers than the current Rossmore buses. With dial-a-bus service, the drivers have variable schedules. Someone needs to pay attention to scheduling their breaks and lunch within the proper time. The dispatchers also need breaks and lunch, so 2 dispatchers are actually needed, not just 1. I've noticed other letter writers calling for door-to-door bus service for everyone, not just paratransit. Door-to-door service makes the travel time longer for everyone on the bus. With dial-a-bus service, the entry makes the most sense for pickup and drop-off. The driver just needs to pull over at the entry number, not drive into a narrow area lined with carports. I think people who don't currently ride the bus are looking for an Uber model in which they make the call and the bus picks them up within 10 minutes and delivers them to their destination. This ignores the needs of everyone else who rides the bus. Thank you for your consideration.
Christine Hagelin.
Good morning, I'm Christine Hagelin. I live at 2611 Sackville, Indiana, number 2. And I've lived in Rossmore for 5 years. And I'm concerned about the future of the Creekmore pickleball courts because I live right across the street from them. I'd like to focus on one issue that I believe deserves careful consideration: the unique relationship between the Creekside pickleball courts and the surrounding homes. Several homes, including my own, are located within approximately 100 feet of the courts. I believe that makes the Creekside unlike any other recreational facility in Rossmore. It places an active outdoor sports facility immediately adjacent to a residential neighborhood where residents should reasonably expect quiet enjoyment of their homes. This isn't simply a question about whether pickleball is a worthwhile activity. It's about whether its particular location remains the most appropriate place for outdoor pickleball now that the Rossmore has a modern purpose-built facility that's $4.5 million. I believe option 2 that's outlined by the planning committee, which is removing the Creekside pickleball courts and creating attractive open space with landscaping, seating, and other community activities, provides a better long-term solution. It respects both the surrounding neighborhood and the broader Rossmore community. For that reason, I ask the board to please support option 2. Thank you.
Katha Hartley.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Katha Hartley. I live at 2601 Sackland Indian Drive, number 1, entry 2. And I have been here for the past 11.5 years. I'm here to provide input on the future of the Creekside pickleball courts, which were, when I first moved into Rossmore, retired tennis courts, as you may remember. I'm also a member of both the tennis club and the pickleball club and I love both sports. Wish I could play better. And I'm very pleased about the $4.5 million investment in the new facility. The future of the Creekside Courts, however, is really important to me because of where I live. I'm in a recessed complex of 4 condos just across the street from my neighbors on Entry 2 who border Rossmore Parkway. And despite the fact that I'm not on the parkway, I can still hear the pickleballs. If you play both tennis and pickleball, you are well aware of the difference in the sounds that the balls make. Tennis is softer, pickleballs are pop. You also know that tennis courts are occupied by 2 to 4 players who demand quiet while they play. Not so for pickleball. Once on the court, you see many chairs along the sides, many people waiting to play because the games are of short duration. They're talking, having a wonderful time. You hear them, you hear celebrating good shots. Sometimes the noise of the pickleball parties are shared with the neighborhood. The sound from the Creekside Courts is more than a nuisance. It's a constant. On days without rain, from early morning, sometimes before 8 a.m., despite the rules, to late afternoon. I invite any of you to come spend a few hours in one of the houses along Rossmore Parkway to experience for yourselves the constant irritant that impacts their peace and their right to quiet and peace of mind. Rossmore Parkway is the beautiful thoroughfare which introduces visitors.
I'm sorry, but that's time.
No kidding. Okay, option 2.
Jess Clark.
Good morning. My name is Jess Clark and I live at 1429 Skycrest Drive, number 3. I'm the chair of the Ban Pesticides Committee of Sustainable Rossmore. I'm here to lend my support to the recommendation to solicit proposals for a comprehensive evaluation of Audubon certification and sustainable turf management practices on the golf course. I would like to recognize and thank Ann Matola for a well-reasoned, balanced, and comprehensive background report, which provides a clear roadmap and addresses the needs and concerns of residents. This recommendation to seek bids to retain an independent consultant is significant progress, but only a part of a long road. Change is never easy, as we know. However, as Ralph Waldo Emerson stated, the first wealth is health. So as we will never know the health benefits of removing Roundup Promax from the golf course or becoming Audubon certified, we do know that there are significant benefits and well-being of removing these toxins. We do understand that a person's health and wellness can bring heartbreaking challenges, but also joy to be with family. So thank you for your work. I respectfully ask that this recommendation unanimously be voted out of this committee and that the members here work with the RWC to support it in the next meeting. Thank you for your time.
Vivian Clayton.
Hi, I'm Vivian Clayton. I live at 1707 Comstock Drive. I'm a retired neuropsychologist and I specialized in geriatrics. My 42-year career included 18 full years at the Rossmore Medical Center, which is now no longer in existence, but I was there from 1987 to 2005. And physicians often referred me to people who needed driving evaluations for reaction time, visual, spatial, motor considerations, decision-making, and most important, judgment. And so when it came time for me to retire, having spent so many years here doing home visits and whatnot, I didn't hesitate. I knew exactly where I wanted to live, and I've been here for 5.5 years. I was so convinced about all the amenities. The only background thing I checked was the condition and presence of how many swim pools there were here. I moved here during the pandemic, and once the pandemic was over, I noticed that the transportation amenity had changed since my time here, which began in 1987. I won't go into how it was because we all know how it is now. People choose Rossmore because it's an active, independent community, and the change in the level of transportation amenities and options has really been reduced in these years, pre and post. I'm concerned as a psychologist that the active would change if you had to give up your driving. And
I'm sorry, but that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've sort of said some of them.
So we do not have any member forum speakers on Zoom, so that completes member forum.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I want to report on is we're going to have a great presentation from our new consultant for our transportation study. So be prepared. Please don't leave. If you spoke, especially if you spoke about the transit study, please stay and watch the presentation. Anne's going to start us out with our capital project update, and then we will move on to Bruno. What's your last name?
Literatura.
Just say Bruno.
Oh, yeah, there's
Bruno will be after Anne's report. Thank you.
We'll just go with Bruno. Wonderful. Great. So I'm just going to go down the list of capital projects and report on those that are active and what's going on with those. So for the pavement program, there's no activity now. I know that Martina is working on a proposal to bring forward, I think by September, with different sections of road. Nothing new on building furnishings for the pickleball courts. The estimated completion is now in August, and I can tell you why. The number of welds that were necessary on the whole, the shed structure, it was just a little bit more time consuming. We were trying to negotiate with the company that erected it. When they told us the timeline, we're like, no, we really want you to get it done in less amount of time, but you have to do them safely. Welds are inspected, and so here we are, pushing the opening date into August, but it's really going well. Without Jeff here, he's really running the lead on both the admin relocation and the Dollar Clubhouse project, so we'll wait until the next month to get an update from him or the board meeting that comes up. Food and beverage, so I think everybody has seen the little trailer that's out in front of, as you go into the golf course off of Stanley Dollar. So I know that they've been out, we actually just finished all of the hard connections to it. So it's plumbed and it's electric, so you're not gonna have some noisy, toxic generator. It'll be like powered. So that was done, that was all signed off and inspected and signed off by the city. And so Roger's finishing outfitting it, and I don't have an opening date for it yet, but we're really looking forward to getting some coffee and morning grab and go foods from that location. For Hillside Park Space Master Plan, there is no movement on that. For the golf course lake liner, we're hoping that we can have a review of the project, the scope and the cost in October. We're working with 3 different vendors, and right now we're taking a look at them, and it's not all comparing apples and apples. We're finding that some of them have better relationships, have better workings with regulatory agencies, which although there isn't oversight, we still need sensitivity and a little bit of coordination with them. So we're getting closer to bringing a proposal for that. I'm gonna skip to the golf bridge replacement. We've started coordinating the construction document team with the environmental, because those kind of have to move forward together. We don't want to have our final construction documents and then the environmental services coming back and just saying, no, we don't like that. So we're at about like 65% construction documents, and so now the different environmental agencies want to have a look at it and give us their advice on what they will support. So that's moving along.
And could you tell us which environmental agencies are involved in doing this?
I could, but it would be a guess. I know I'll get them wrong. But I know it's Fish and Wildlife. That's kind of the biggest one.
We hire a consultant that.
We have a consultant that coordinates it, because
I
it's,
understand. I
yeah.
just want to
And fun
make it-
fact, they're all environmental experts, but they all have different ideas on remedies. So they have to get together, have their own little like negotiation, because there are many ways to solve some of those problems of the plantings and whatnot. But I know Fish and Wildlife is one of them. I'll definitely have them for the next report. I can send them to you. So, okay, so the event center solar, that will happen. That's actually half of the arrays are on the event center, half will be on the new pickleball facility, but we can't do that work until we get that all built. There's been no work done on the golf water conservation projects. I don't know if everybody here is aware that Blake is moving on to a course closer to his home. We do have a new superintendent that will be starting Monday, so there's a little like overlap. So I'm not sure if we'll be taking any of those forward this year, so that's money that we talked about prioritizing, which may not happen, just for a later discussion. And then for the other projects, under the new requests, as I mentioned, Jeff will talk about anything happening with the Dollar Clubhouse when he returns. We've begun the ordering of the equipment that we need for the Stanley Dollar security fence that was approved back in May. And then we'll be talking about, there's no movement on anything except for, we'll be talking about Buckeye tennis courts today. We've got a proposal to do the resurfacing for that. We're gonna have our presentation from transportation and the pickleball discussion, the follow-up from the last month's committee meeting will be talked about at this upcoming board meeting. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. I just have a comment. So you've talked about our really big projects. And I know that there is some money that is allocated for capital facilities. Can you tell us, is there anything happening, smaller things that that may impact the residents, may give us some good news to go forward? I know some of the things that have been brought up have to do with, redoing carpeting or changing out the shower heads in the fitness center, like things like that. Are any of those in progress?
So I will tell you, they're not in progress yet. Usually when we're at this point of like the mid-year, we like to look and see where we are with the budget and then kind of do our plan. But the showers are one of the areas that we get the most requests from. So a lot of times what we'll do, so there's money that's in the, it's now moved to capital.
Right.
And so what it's there for, there's a lot of things that happen. We have a lot of things break. You may have heard that the pool has lots of mechanical failures and things like that. So a lot of that stuff you can't predict. And so we use that fund for that. We do have things that are on a regular schedule. So event center. No, not event center. Yeah, event center's getting new chairs, right? That got new chairs. What's the last new room to get chairs? Yeah, it is event center. All right, so we have chair replacement. We don't really have carpet replacement, but we're looking at things to identify them to see if we can do them within the budget or if we should bring them forward in capital. But then there are lots of other little things. So we'll get requests from clubs. So right now we're trying to work with the tennis club to fix there's a barbecue up at that, and it's really the tennis clubs use it. And so there are many like little things that we're looking at. We're working with the lawn bowling, but the boards that are in their different bowling greens, they often need to be replaced. So a lot of the work falls on the facilities team. But we're trying to, but what we're trying to do is to gather a list of those and just to figure out the best way to proceed. But we do get, but the clubs in particular, because they tend to be the stewards of all of our spaces, they give us these things to take a look at. Now, sometimes they're rising a level where they need to kind of be pushed over, and we may take them to you just to say, do you want to consider this? And if not, we try to figure out how can we do things over time.
Okay. So it'd be nice just to have a little, like, good news update on the little
We can do
stuff
that,
too.
yeah, so I can be more
Besides the
prepared.
big
Yeah.
projects.
So I can be more prepared, like next month, and just let you know, these are some of the things
That'd be
that are
great.
happening, or things that have come in for you to weigh in
Yeah.
on.
It might be helpful to show an example of that capital maintenance plan of the vast amount of maintenance that's scheduled out for the year. That way we would know what was coming up. We don't need to see it every time because it's big, but
We
you
can
know,
put
just to
some- we
give
can
you
put
an
something
idea
together.
of how many things are already scheduled in for capital maintenance, so.
Yes.
And I also think it's an interesting indicator about just the, it's a team of 4 that do, when you think you have 4 people that are really kind of spit shine in the valley and making it, you know, really taking care of these facilities that are aging and they're very highly skilled in the trades, like at least 2 of the trades. We are really fortunate to have this team. And you know, so they've done a lot of like the office renovation to fit people in, so we're not hiring in like these companies to come in. And they're super efficient with our resources. So I'm happy to brag about them a little bit and give you an idea of some of the projects that they've accomplished and some of the things that are coming up. And you'll be surprised because a lot of them are they're the ones that are taking care of emergencies all the time and keeping things running really well.
Great,
Yeah, we'll do that.
okay. Anything else on your end?
Not from that.
Okay, we are going to turn it over to Bruno from Beer and Peers. And I think you have something you want to put up on the screen.
Yes. I think you need to stop
Should
sharing.
he do it from his screen?
Yeah, you'll be able to share.
Okay.
I need to stop sharing first.
Oh, yeah, stop sharing your screen.
Sorry about that.
Yours.
Is it just that?
No, it's just your screen.
I just forget what I'm sharing.
Right.
Okay. Oh, there you go. And Kelsey, did you want to give any kind
Yeah,
of introduction?
So Bruno is here from Fair and Peers to kind of do our first introduction for our transit study. So he is our project manager, so he's our partner throughout this whole process. And so this presentation is really just an introduction to kind of show the community and show the committee what to expect and how the study is going to work for the next few months, and give a little overview how transit also looks nationwide, not just how it's looking for our community. It's not going to have any suggestions or assumptions about what the study will show at the end. It's really just to kind of kick us off. So he's here just to jump us into this whole process.
Thanks, Kelsey. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. As I mentioned, I'm Bruno. I'm with Fair and Peers, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Rossmore Short Range Transit Plan and give you an introduction to the project. I'll try to keep this brief to like 5 to 10 minutes, and then we can have some questions from the board. So quickly, here's what I plan to cover today. First, I want to give some background on what's happening with transit agencies broadly. Then talk about the specific project that we're kicking off today. And then especially about how we're engaging with you, with the community, to understand your needs. And then a few lessons learned from other peer agencies around the region. So let's start with some context first, because Rossmore isn't really experiencing anything unique. This is the struggles that the transit system has here. It also is happening everywhere around other transit agencies as well. So as you know, and some people actually already mentioned this, since the pandemic, rider behavior has shifted quite a bit. Hybrid workers commute fewer days to work. People are more comfortable using their cars and driving. More trips are happening in off-peak periods, which makes it a little harder for fixed route systems to operate at a cost-efficient way. Ridership across the board through different transit systems is still 30 to 50% below pre-pandemic levels. And seniors especially have been slower to come back to transit than other groups. This also creates financial challenges or financial cliff for transit agencies. Ridership drops create this financial cliff because there's less fair revenue, and there's also higher labor costs and challenges to recruit and maintain drivers. And then at a regional level, as you might know, this is also pretty serious. Bay Area transit agencies are facing what they're calling a fiscal cliff, and without new funding, they might need to cut around 50% of their service, as you've probably been listening from BART and other transit agencies, which is really why there's this regional transit ballot measure this fall called Connect Bay Area, which is trying to recoup some of those funds that have been lost to keep running the service at the same levels as today. And then, as you know, Rossmore is also already also feeling this. Ridership here has been down 70% from pre-pandemic levels. The service today, as some of you mentioned, looks much different from the one that residents were used to and knew before the pandemic, where it was more of a fixed route system versus today that is mostly a dial-a-ride type system. Residents now have more options as well. They can use Uber, they can use Lyft to move around. There's delivery services that they can also take advantage of. And taking the bus isn't necessarily the only option for them anymore. And just like everyone else, operating costs are rising. Driver retention is a challenge as well. And all this really sets the setting for why this plan is important now for this community. So let's talk about that. With that context in mind, let's talk about how this project is, what this project is trying to accomplish. So this is the general schedule. At a high level, we're trying to reassess Rossmore transportation services based on what residents actually need, evaluating realistic alternatives, and then giving you a clear roadmap for implementation. So you can see here on the screen the schedule. We're, as Kelsey mentioned, kicking this off now in July. And we're beginning the existing conditions and community engagement phase now, which I'll talk a little bit about in a few minutes. Alternative developments will run through the fall, and then the plan is to land on a preferred alternative and implementation plan by the end of this year. As I mentioned, a big part of this project is really making sure that we're hearing directly from the community and understanding the needs that the community has. In this sense, our goal is not just to talk with current drivers that are riding the system, but also trying to hear from former riders, those that used to ride the system, but now they're not doing it anymore. Understand why that is happening, and also reach out to people that have never used this service at all. We want to understand why some people are not choosing to ride the system and why some people are choosing to use this system. To reach out to these different groups, we're going to use a few different channels. We're going to start with online and printed surveys that are going to be distributed through different channels. Also onboard surveys with people that are actually riding the system today. And we'll also close things off with a public workshop. As part of this process, we're trying to understand different things. We're trying to understand where and when people need to travel and use the bus. What is stopping them from using the service today? And then what a future service would actually lead, a better service will look for them in the future. Like I mentioned, these service results are really gonna be key for the development of alternatives, and they're gonna shape the alternatives that we bring back to you later this year. So if, for example, residents really mention on the engagement, and they tell us that evening service, for example, is something that they really would like, or better BART connections is what it matters the most for them. Or if they really want to bring back fixed routes, then that's what we'll try to explore through the alternatives development process. And then lastly, before I wrap up, I want to share just a few things of what we're learning from other agencies that are approaching similar decisions in the last few years. So 3 main things have come up. Sorry. First one being this trade-off between ridership and coverage. So agencies generally face a trade-off between concentrating the service where the demand is the highest or spreading the coverage more evenly to try to reach more people. There's not really like a right answer for this, and it's more of a question about who are you trying to serve. So the key question here is how you want to prioritize those resources through those different markets or users that are trying to use this the transit system. Is your goal trying to make the experience better for the people that really rely and need the service? Or is it to broaden the appeal to others to try to make ridership grow? Second, another trade-off that some of these transit agencies are facing, and Rossmore is also facing, is the fixed route versus on-demand system. As you know, fixed routes are more predictable, they're easy to plan around, it's always generally the same time, the same schedule, the same route. And on-demand is more flexible, but sometimes it's harder to count on and really depends on the scheduling system and the people who are working behind it. And although these, the technology barriers to run a good, efficient on-demand system are getting smaller with new technologies, we're seeing this type of system show up more as a complement to fixed route rather than a full replacement. And then lastly, the third lessons learned that we have here is positive feedback loops. So we've seen that agencies that are investing more in restoring service and improving the rider experience are seeing positive results back and are seeing how the ridership recovers and grows. But the honest takeaway here is really that every agency is different. There's no a single right answer, and that's why we're grounding this plan in the community engagement, hearing from you, and understanding what the Rossmore residents actually tell us on what they want to see on their transit system for the upcoming years. So that's the update that I'm bringing to you today. We're moving forward to the thick of community engagement, as I mentioned, over the next month or two, and we'll be reporting back some of those, what we're hearing from the community and how that can shape the alternatives. So I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how are these surveys developed? I mean, do you use generic surveys for every study, or are you going to look at our specific senior community and the survey will be?
Yeah, not generic at all. Kelsey and her team have been working on developing kind of a first draft of that. And we're making sure, we also have we did prepare something similar, I think it was 10 or 12 years ago for this community. And we are looking at those results as well to try to shape the questions and see maybe some of the things that we missed the first for the survey back then. So yeah, it's gonna be focused on what we know about this community, not just a generic survey.
And will we have a chance to look at that before it goes out?
Kelsey, your hand.
Let me check with Jeff.
Okay.
And see when he gets back.
Just curious.
And
Yeah.
will the survey be in the Rossmore News?
Yes.
we
Yes.
already talked about that.
Just making
Yes,
sure.
it will.
Okay.
So one of the biggest problems we face right now is the difficulty in finding drivers. And that is just not going to go away anytime soon. How will your study address that essentially underlying problem that, labor people aren't willing to do those jobs anymore?
Yeah.
So how do we cope with it?
Yeah, that is true, and it's true especially in the world of Uber and Lyft, where those same drivers could work for Uber or Lyft, and they have much less requirements, right, to serve those jobs. That is definitely one of the biggest, I would say, pain points of the transit systems nowadays. We can think of like the role of new technologies and how that can play a role in that. But especially for a community like, and I'm thinking maybe autonomous shuttles, things like that, but especially for a community like Rossmore, that is a little bit challenging because of the importance of the driver in the trip of people. It's not just about moving people, it's about also supporting them through their trip. So I think it's definitely a trade-off that is not gonna be easy to solve, and we're gonna be looking for also your input on that, because it's more expensive and it's harder to get drivers, but it's also a bit of a need.
I mean, that's not to say we couldn't have both,
Right.
right? Like,
Yes.
like the easy trips just in the valley, which I don't know what percentage our riders are just going from, you know, the pool to home or something like that, where the driver would not be that essential, right? Versus going out of Rossmore.
Yep. That's a good point.
Because, yeah, the driver situation is what slowed us down, why we had to cut services.
I wondered if you would include in the study questions that relate to how to recruit people to get them out of their car, even though they're able drivers. So, I mean, we have 10,000 people here, almost everybody owns a car. We really don't need 10,000 cars, so will it address that?
Yeah.
For able-bodied people with no need.
Yeah, so and that's why we not only want to hear from the people that are using the service, that need the service, but also from people that are not using the service and why they're, like, what would need to happen for them to actually
It's included, that's some of the
not
questions
drive, yes.
included at this point of the survey.
Yeah. Yeah, the survey right now really differentiates on like the different, like, do you use the survey? Do you not, do you use the transit system? Do you not use the transit system?
Yeah.
But don't give us more golf carts, please. Not an alternative, right?
Noted.
Along those lines of taking people out of their cars, one of the problems you face in a community like ours is people who no longer can see quite as well, no longer can think quite as well, and shouldn't be driving, but they don't stop. And do we have an idea, or will your study enable us to have an idea of how many people fall into that category? And where we should be trying to
But the first step is admitting you have the problem.
I mean, so is there any way of doing that kind of a?
It's tricky. We will ask some demographic questions on the survey. We could take some takeaways related to that from the survey, but it's a little tricky to.
I mean, things like, do you feel comfortable driving after dark?
Yes.
I mean,
Right.
a lot of people don't. They're okay during the day, but honestly, they don't want to drive at night.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be an easy, and I think people would answer that honestly. I'm like, has your driver's license expired? Have your kids taken your keys away? But you made a spare?
Could you just give a follow-up to the survey? So if, like with the food and beverage study, what we did was we had a survey and then people willing to talk further about their issues and concerns were pulled into small groups. Is there any attempt to do that with this?
So we'll definitely have a workshop in which it's gonna be in person, and we'll try to have more of those kind of conversations. And we'll definitely follow up to the people that responded to the survey to make sure that they know about that workshop and that they can come in and give us those thoughts. So, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna ask something, I'll say sometimes when we worked with consultants, like the food and beverage was a really good example of, and I think you worked here before, so you know, sometimes the path there's a discovery along the way.
Yes.
So would there be a potential for a scope change if there was a desire to do a focus group?
Yeah, yes.
Ted?
Will there be a look into, I know we got an issue now that we're trying to fix, will there be a look into a future? In other words, I'm not looking for a Band-Aid right now, I'm looking for a fix, and maybe what we do now is a little bit of a reach. By the time we get to this point, it's right on, and then it's gonna last a while, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the goal is not to have us, have you guys contract us every year to fix the things that we couldn't fix last time. So yes, 100%.
Well, thank you. Please, I know you'll keep Kelsey posted on next steps and you'll keep us posted too.
We'll see you next month.
Okay, great. Next month it'll be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We don't really have unfinished business, but we have some new business.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. And would you like to discuss golf course agronomy?
Agronomy.
That's a word.
Yes. So there's been some really interesting insights from the community, research, agronomy, craft course of agronomy. And basically, so there's been interest in the community to really look at the practices at the golf course and to see what we could do to reduce or eliminate the use of the more toxic herbicides and chemicals, including Roundup and glyphosate, which is the chemical used in that. And so it's also been very interesting because so the group led by Joy and Jess, really from Sustainable Rossmore, I know they've met with golf courses and they've been reporting out that there are golf courses that have been able to make this transition, and in some cases they've had, cost savings and whatnot. And so, like, in addition to this being this health benefit, this is something, which could be an operational alternative. And so the interesting thing about statements like that, I just wanted to put this out there, is every golf course is a little bit different. And I can tell you that our golf course has a real efficient staff. So we have 27 holes plus 3 bowling greens and 14 staff. Where in like the higher end, you'll have like 1 staff per hole. Sometimes it's like 1.5. And we're towards the low end. Is it dire? No. But we have a really high aesthetic level considering the number of staff we have. And so anytime you look at something, there's this cause and effect. So I had a lovely conversation with Adrian on like, how can we address this? And so the thought was, well, why don't we try to find somebody that can come in and be a real independent, neutral person and look at all sides of this equation and come back to us. And like, really, it's doing an assessment. So I want to go over what the scope is in case it's not as intuitive in it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So basically, it's an existing golf course maintenance assessment. So what are we doing now? What are we using? How are we getting this done with the current resource level that we have? There's a line item for the gap analysis for an Audubon certification, because that is actually less drastic than really looking at replacing like the greater menu, if you will, of chemicals that we do use. But we want to take a look at that in itself, in addition to evaluating what it would take to reduce or eliminate the higher toxicity herbicides that we use. In doing this, because we always have to keep an eye on what we are used to seeing, right? What the golfers are used to seeing, the playability of the course, like those aesthetics are really kind of important, the turf quality. And so speaking to turf quality, there's something called IPM in golf courses, the integrated pest management. And so right now, that's like how they do a mixture of mowing and application of these chemicals to keep down everything from fungus to certain grasses, which are disease prone. That's that agronomic science. It's the art and the science. And there are different ways to approach that, but we really need to understand because there are a few things to think about, like when you remove the chemical, now you have this problem which has to be addressed through some other means. So can it be done through mechanical mowing, through personnel? We need to understand what that is. So then it's the effects on staffing levels and labor. So in some of the golf courses I know that have these practices, they're very well staffed. So maybe they did a change and it was like a little bit of a bump and saw savings in the line items. But if we want to keep that service level, and for us, the service level is like really what the turf quality is, what it looks like, right? So what would the effects be on staffing levels and labor? Are there different equipment needs? What are those maintenance practices? And I would say, and the training that would have to go to it for our team. Does the turf quality change at all? Does the playability change at all? And just the overall aesthetic. We don't know. We're gonna find out though. So then you're weighing the risks and the implementation challenges. So there is this potential for an increased weed population, and you got to have the right maintenance and management practices to do that. So again, we want to go in it with wide open, because I know I was having a conversation with Ted. There are some places that use these practices and they don't have that same service level that we have. Like ours is a desirable course to play on because we really want to make it this beautiful aesthetic experience. Mind you, we have the workforce multiplier in the form of toxic chemicals, but it's doable. But we want to understand how do you do that? And then really take a good look at what 5 and 10-year operating cost projections would be, see if there are any capital investments to be successful with that. So it's really this holistic look. I put out feelers to different companies to get an idea, because I want to get an idea of what a study, what an assessment would cost to do this. And I want to bring at least the cost information back next month and hopefully proposals in the September meeting, so we can get going on this. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about that, but I think at this point is just generally, is this direction, do you want to give direction for me to proceed in exploring this?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, golf is a huge amenity for Rossmore. People come here for golf, so we have to be careful of the quality. But at the same time, I think if we seriously look at becoming less reliant on chemicals, we can market that for Rossmore. We're in the middle of this huge PR campaign for Rossmore. And I think with generations coming in from X and Z, where are we, Alpha? I don't know. I think it's a plus for marketing, for future generations. But just to translate what you're talking about staffing, if more staffing is required to achieve fewer chemical usage, that's going to put money on the coupon. So that, I'm just translating what you delicately said.
Yeah, and that's why it's like, and I had a conversation right before, it's like, and I think like the research that was done, like was really like wonderful. I mean, it's nice that people really trying to be aware, and like with the Audubon certification, that's actually could be an easier jump and an incremental like first jump that won't have as big an impact. But the reason why we really need to understand this is because it is this, the golf course is this focal point, selling point asset. I think whether you play golf or not, it kind of creates this anchor, it grounds the community a bit. And so it takes very little, and this is a really important thing for anybody that's like, oh my God, I'm a golfer, I don't want the golf course to change. We're very aware, and the reason we want to take this holistic approach is that it's an art and a science, and it takes very little. Like you can eliminate one of these things and it could be a chain reaction of failures, and then you're kind of catching up on a maintenance issue. And we don't want to do that. We want to approach it with eyes wide open and understand what those risks are.
So, just a clarification, you were talking about the Audubon criteria, so are there different levels of that, or is that a one package kind of?
I think it's one separate thing. There are other things that we use that I think Audubon certification does not care about. So
we would find out during the process of investigating.
It's not they don't care about, they don't address it specifically, but there are organics which are very scary.
Yeah, so I mean, the interesting thing about the Audubon certification is that there are golf courses out there like Pebble Beach, like Scottsdale, TC Sawtooth, which are, top level golf courses. If you want to play golf, there's nothing better than those. So it doesn't doing this doesn't mean reducing the quality of our course at all, but it may involve
it just means different resources.
Who knows?
We don't know.
Yeah. So one of the things that would come out of this would be not just the Audubon alternative, but perhaps others. Is that your?
Well, I think they want to look at, I think they're going to look at, if we look at our maintenance plan as it is right now. We need that technical expert to say, like, so we have, so I know the bane of Mark's existence and Blake's is the kikuyu grass. And there's like this one agent that we use, which really keeps that in check. And so we really want people to look at it and just say, you know, you're really risking a major aesthetic, you know, problematic issue if you eliminate that particular agent, right? So can we look at it and still keep that? Because it's just not worth the cost to try to hire 20 people to go out and be eradicating this invasive grass. I mean, so I think you can look at things like that and they can give us, again, this independent, neutral type of a recommendation on and looking at all these things. Like Audubon isn't, they don't look at that because they even understand, I think they did the certification with the understanding of certain baseline expectations on golf courses with turf quality and the difficulty to maintain certain turfs. But we need somebody to communicate that.
So the other thing about the Audubon certification, if I understand it right, it also, I don't know if it's a requirement that we'd have to do some changes to the landscaping, either.
They called it like rewilding,
on the golf course or near it? Is it only near it, not on it?
So this is what we need to find out. If it's, is it perimeter? Does it have to change over places? But I think again, we need to find out exactly what that is. We need to find out exactly what that is, because it's hard to point to a golf course because they could have implemented something beyond what was required. Like, you know, we don't really know. Again, every golf course is like a painting. They're all different. So we need to see what that would look like here.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with John T, who again, because he's trying to, you know, he's reducing use of the more harmful chemicals with his programs. He's doing some like rewilding areas that could be kind of demonstrations on what it looks like. It sounds like a jungle. It's not. It's actually a bit more thoughtful. And so that's, so I think part of it is, you know, we have this landscape department that might be able to kind of give us visuals of what you can expect in certain changes. So we want to kind of, again, we want to understand what's required. If we had demonstration areas to point to, that would be like super helpful versus trying to describe it from another golf course. Like, let's look what is which is going to grow successfully here and what will be like the areas that it may take over and whatnot. So it's quite a project. I mean, it's going to take a little bit to get there. But again, the first thing is to get someone that's going to guide us and that can really speak. Because I will tell you, there are two advocacy groups, and one of them is don't change a thing, and one of them is, but doesn't everybody want to, you know, doesn't everyone like hear about the health benefit? And I think what we want to do is make sure we give information to both to feel comfortable on whatever path is selected and give the board the information, you know, to decide what can we, you know, what should we do for the community.
Hence why we need a proposal.
You know, independent.
But,
Yes.
but on that, like today, we're not actually talking about a proposal. We're talking about starting an investigation or getting
Yeah, because I need
list
to,
of-
because, so I sent out feelers to I found 4 different consultants. I'm waiting for our new superintendent starts Monday. Happens to be coming from a course that was Audubon certified and is very familiar with some of the practices and how they're different. But he gave me like one, he goes, he's gonna research like a few others. He's been helping out since before he started here. I think he's gonna be a good, just like a really good Rossmore team member.
What's his name?
Jim McKenna.
Thank you.
So,
But I think when he comes, we're gonna start like, you know, reaching out like to different potential consultants, because we need to get an idea. So if we're saying this is potentially the scope, we just need a pretty good back of the napkin estimate of what it's gonna cost us. Because that's what we need to find out, because we have no idea what this is gonna cost.
That's what you'd come back with next month, would be, here's what it would cost to dig in.
Yeah.
so it's like a precursor to putting out an RFP.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what Ann's asking is this what you want? Do you want her to go down that path before she goes down that path?
Oh, I think we do, don't we?
Yeah, so I move that the planning committee supports us in furthering this investigation and coming back with a set of proposals to investigate in detail.
That's like, right.
Excellent.
Adrian made the motion, Janet seconded.
Thank you.
We need roll call. Oh, wait, discussion?
Just one thing that I have a question about is when we are getting into this and we are comparing, let's compare two golf courses that are similar in price to what people do here. If we bring in Pebble Beach in on it,
Yeah.
Yes,
that's
no-
$300 to $600 a rental.
It's not, but it's
Same
not
as here.
it's not a comparative. It's looking at our operation and what it would cost.
No,
to-
but I'm just, Adrian brought up the comparison and he brought up Pebble Beach. We're not Pebble Beach and we don't have the staffing and everything Pebble Beach does. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page of the same type of places that we're at.
We're not gonna have a
that had to be
staffer
said, but we
in
know.
every hole. We do not have staffing for that.
Selden,
Yes.
Byram,
Yes.
Maji,
Yes?
motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay. Now you want some more money, don't you, Ann?
I do. We really want to
Tennis courts,
resurface.
Yes, we must.
Yes, the long-awaited Buckeye
Repaving,
Courts
yeah.
7 and 8. Yeah, so basically we reprioritized the resurfacing of Buckeye Courts 7 and 8 in this year's capital budget.
Yep.
I think everyone here has been on the tour and has seen, those are the courts that have the pyrite streaking. And so what we wanted to do for this one, which is a little different than a typical resurfacing, is that we wanted to have the people that submitted bids add a layer that helps slow down the seeping of that staining. It doesn't prevent it. It will appear again, but it's gonna slow that down. And the reason that's important is once that pyrite surfaces, then it can start pitting and whatnot. So it helps us extend it so we can kind of be on a normal schedule of resurfacing for
So it's just a resurfacing, it's
Yeah.
not a
we're not
reconstruction.
going into the base layer and taking out the bad mixture that had the pyrites to begin with.
That's why it's in an amount not to exceed
Yeah.
34,000 instead of
Yes,
100,000.
correct. Yeah, so the amount that we're asking for, it does include some contingency. We included the bids and we went to, we actually reached out to 4 companies and received 3 bids. And so the company for this happens to be Silicon Valley Paving, who does tennis courts. And actually, we had a conversation with them when they saw the pickleball courts going up, and they've done about 60 in the last year, and they're certified with the particular surfacing that we prefer. So they are recommended, and so the recommendation is to authorize the GM to execute a contract with them.
Do we have a motion?
I move that planning committee recommend to the RWC board that we authorize the GM to execute a contract with Silicon Valley Paving in an amount not to exceed $34,000 to be paid from RWC capital fund for resurfacing Buckeye Courts 7 and 8.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay,
Selden,
yes.
Byram,
Yes.
Maji,
Yes.
motion is unanimously approved.
Okay, great. Well, I think we have concluded our business tonight. Wow, record time. Our next meeting will be Thursday, August 13th at 10 o'clock.
Told you it'd be a good one.
So, meeting is adjourned.